At 4:17 in the morning, more than 300 miles north of Venezuela's coastline, the ocean registered a sound so faint it barely disturbed the surrounding water. A controlled hydraulic murmur. Torpedo tube doors easing open inside a half-century-old German submarine. Aboard the Sabalo, 64 Venezuelan sailors believed they were standing on the edge of history. What they didn't know was that history had already finished writing this chapter nearly a week earlier, inside quiet briefing rooms in Norfolk, Virginia, where analysts had predicted every move the Sabalo would make before it ever slipped its moorings. On the distant horizon loomed the target, a structure so massive it seemed unreal. The USS Gerald R. Ford, a floating metropolis of steel and aviation fuel, 100,000 tons of displacement, 75 aircraft, 4,500 crew members, a $13 billion symbol of American naval dominance. To the Venezuelan commander, it represented defiance, leverage, and political theater. To the 3 Virginia-class submarines shadowing him from 2,000 yards away, it was simply a solved equation. What makes this encounter truly revealing isn't the moment itself. It's how Venezuela arrived here. Their submarine fleet didn't suddenly fail. It decayed, slowly, quietly. 4 German-built Type 209 submarines were purchased in the 1970s, back when oil wealth gave Caracas global reach and ambition. At the time, Venezuela's Navy was taken seriously throughout the Caribbean. Those boats were meant to project power far beyond their shores. Today, most of them are hollow shells. At La Guaira Naval Base, 3 of those submarines sit motionless, stripped of usable components. One hasn't sailed in over a decade. Another lost its propeller shaft years ago and was never repaired. A third is missing its entire combat information center. Sailors joke, half seriously, that between all 4 hulls, the Navy might have enough working parts to keep one boat barely operational. That boat is the Sabalo. Even the Sabalo survives on borrowed time. Its diesel engines haven't received a proper overhaul in nearly a decade. Its sonar systems rely on technology obsolete before the Cold War ended. The fire control software predates smartphones. Venezuelan crews haven't fired a live torpedo in more than 10 years, not due to lack of will, but because they can't afford to retrieve the training weapons afterward. This is what military decline looks like when budgets disappear, but missions don't. And yet, desperation changes how people calculate risk. A regime under pressure doesn't see suicide. It sees opportunity. The Caribbean Sea may look vast and empty, but it is one of the most monitored bodies of water on Earth. Beneath the waves lies a web of underwater listening systems, descendants of Cold War surveillance, arrays designed to detect Soviet submarines. These systems have been refined for decades. They hear everything: biological life, ocean layers, mechanical irregularities, and certainly a 1970s-era diesel submarine attempting to run quietly. When the Sabalo left port 4 days earlier, it was detected almost immediately, not by one sensor, but many. Before it traveled 50 meters, multiple acoustic arrays had logged its unique signature. American intelligence didn't just track the submarine. They understood it. The crew list, the fuel load, mechanical weaknesses, maintenance history. Even personal details about the captain's family were already known. To the Venezuelans, they were ghosts beneath the surface. In reality, they were actors on stage, fully illuminated, every movement observed. At 4:18, the torpedo tube flooding sequence began. Seawater rushed into the forward compartment, creating a pressure change that produced a distinctive acoustic pattern. Sound travels through water far faster than air, and within seconds, that signal reached an American submarine operating silently below. To the Sabalo, it was preparation. To the USS Mississippi, it was confirmation. Detection took seconds. Classification took moments. The Mississippi, a Virginia-class attack submarine, was operating at depth nearly undetectable, so quiet that marine life has been known to collide with its hull. Fire control solutions were calculated almost immediately. 2 Mark 48 ADCAP torpedoes were selected. Authorization flowed through command channels. The only thing missing was the order to fire. By the time the Venezuelan captain's hand hovered near the trigger, The Mississippi had a firing solution precise enough to target the Sabalo's engine room. The distance was so short the crew could hear individual systems cycling. If launched, American torpedoes would arrive in seconds, not minutes. The Venezuelan torpedo told its own story. The SUT heavyweight, cutting edge in 1971. Wire-guided, slow by modern standards. A warhead capable of catastrophic damage. But age matters. The guidance wire is copper, vulnerable to breakage. The Seeker relies on outdated processing. It struggles in complex thermal environments. Against a modern carrier protected by layered defenses, it is dangerous, but blind. By contrast, the Mark 48 ADCAP is a generational leap. Faster, smarter, fiber optic guidance, autonomous target reacquisition, designed to hunt in the very conditions that confuse older weapons. This isn't a technological gap. It's a different era entirely. And yet, a torpedo doesn't care how old it is once it detonates. Obsolete doesn't mean harmless. It means the crew firing it won't live long enough to witness success. The Gerald R. 4 was never alone. Its protection extended hundreds of miles outward. Submarines patrolled ahead. Destroyers formed defensive rings. Aircraft flew continuous surveillance patterns, deploying sonar buoys that fed live data into command networks. Everything talked to everything else. The battlefield was invisible but complete. At 4:22, the Venezuelan captain gave the order. Fire. The torpedo left the tube, wire trailing behind it, racing toward a target 18 miles away. The American response was immediate, but restrained. No counterfire. No explosions. Instead, the Mississippi activated active sonar at close range. One pulse. Deafening. Unmistakable. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. You are seen. You've been tracked for days. We are behind you. We can end this whenever we choose. The Venezuelan captain understood instantly. His torpedo was still running, but his submarine was exposed. Somewhere in the darkness, weapons were locked onto his hull. He had seconds to decide. Continue and die, or disengage and live. The guidance wire was cut. The torpedo, suddenly blind, searched aimlessly, unable to separate its target from the ocean's complex layers. It eventually exhausted its fuel and sank into the depths, another relic claimed by the sea. At 4:38, the Sabalo surfaced. 64 sailors emerged onto the deck, staring at empty water. No visible enemy, no pursuit, just silence, and a crushing realization that they had never been alone. The numbers tell the rest. Venezuela spent millions on a mission that achieved nothing. The United States spent the cost of electricity for a single sonar ping. No shots fired. No casualties. No headlines. Strategically, it was flawless. Sinking the submarine would have created martyrs, outrage, and diplomatic fallout. Letting it go achieved something far more valuable. Exposure. Every Navy watching understood the message. Detection precedes action. Information decides outcomes. The carrier strike group continued its patrol. The Sabalo returned home in quiet disgrace. And in Caracas, military planners confronted a reality they could no longer ignore. Their assumptions belong to another century. This is modern deterrence. Silent, invisible, decisive, not with explosions, but with certainty. And the most important confrontations, they're the ones the world never hears about.